Did not see him today, but I wasn't looking for him.
He was here today.
Okay, but
Maybe he
So
didn't,
that's not-
I was here most of the day, but I was in and out.
maybe he didn't think he was gonna be at
We
the
had
meeting.
some asbestos inspectors and stuff.
So everyone saw their printouts from the last meeting, hopefully. If not,
I mean, the budget worksheets,
these ones.
I don't know.
I have them on here.
Not
They were
in
sent to
there.
me. Thank you.
So I think some of them are good.
No, I just
It's not in the packet.
these and it didn't collate.
I do, I think,
These checks are not in that.
found it.
So even if we approve the bills, that's not in it.
So I will.
Ooh, that ain't was emailed out.
No, this is your, because he's got it printed today. That's why. So these were, you have to go to today's packet for the actual council meeting.
Oh,
What was this?
Yeah. 23420.
Right.
Right there.
Yeah, I didn't bring my glasses today.
You don't need it for looking at a spreadsheet.
What's our
anyway.
password again?
1973.
Yeah. Easy one to remember.
So like, the bills that you get on accounts back on Friday, we still have other bills that come in Monday, Tuesday before council meeting, so they get added to the bill list that's updated on this one. So there's sometimes extra bills that don't process until Monday. But
I wonder why this didn't.
they're
hold
all
like
now.
the things.
That's the full bill list.
Oh, yeah, when that happens, it's just nasty.
Yeah.
Gotta figure how to start taking this to meetings.
We don't do that until 7 o'clock.
Yep.
understood.
Okay, if you guys don't have those, let me stick real quick copies. Of the ones we need. Sorry.
Did you see my email about the BLM gal?
Yeah, the Bishop, right?
Yeah, black. Yeah, she's
Wow.
assigned to the case. If you can get a hold of her, I've been trying to get a hold of her lately and haven't a couple times. I didn't call, we put maybe you. She could be calling your, on our rifle committee or also council.
1, 2, 3, 4. You need copies or?
So she's expecting you.
They didn't call.
If you can't get Letitia, then goes and kind of speak with Ruth. Okay. That's sort of follow the guy, what they like you to do.
Yeah, makes sense. I was kind of thinking. Are they make an appointment to go see him type, or they show up and talk to him type?
If you, if you show up, if they're there, they'll see you.
But if I show up and they're not there,
They won't see
I
you.
got
Yeah.
that.
It'd be hard to see, right?
But if I'm in land or not doing anything, I stop in.
I got.
Right, okay.
I don't, I stop in, but sometimes I call ahead and get an appointment,
Map.
Mhm.
but if I'm in land or for something else,
These laptops.
I'll drop by.
So.
And I haven't been there
Then
for a
there's
while in their work
a
that,
question
I haven't met this,
Bill list, a check.
and I
It could immediately
intend
be
to.
displayed.
just to stop in and say hi, so it wouldn't be
So we
bad for you to stop
pull
in and
it,
say hi,
You
get a
can look
working
at it,
relationship with her.
and
Is that a
then
good
do
one with
whatever.
John?
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Or his,
the only ones.
and John's,
Because
John
I
is
was
the
around
Cheyenne guy.
today, cause
Huh?
John is the Cheyenne guy.
No, John's
predecessor.
yeah, John got
Right.
transferred.
I
know, I'm
He's
right.
from
Looking at
Idaho,
them
now,
in
yes.
fact, I think
And
Boise,
it was-
went to Idaho,
So.
that's where he's
Those
from.
checks that I gave you to sign.
The guy
Melissa.
from Cheyenne,
Usually
where
they
did
go to
he,
Melissa right away, but
I ain't
it was like
I'm sure he didn't move in from Montana,
5:30, 5:45.
he's relatively new too.
Those are done, and MasterCard had to get in.
I don't
So that
know.
we didn't get.
This
into finances.
Ruth, I think, came in from Montana,
Right.
Billings area, I think.
My fight with First Interstate.
And I
Bank,
forget where's this guy
Like, I had to
Here,
get like,
that's in Cheyenne, he's relatively new also,
because they weren't.
but
going.
I
She
met him
told
in
me, she
Cheyenne,
said, well, we can't.
down at one of
we
those
can't
legislative
transfer a
deals.
payment. I said, yes, you can.
I met
I'm not
another
asking
one,
you to go
Tim,
back in time.
I think it's one of the
That,
councilmen from.
you guys
Glenville.
posted it
One of
wrong.
them guys does
You
it,
need
that's
to
it.
post it to the.
He's from
right
Blomberg,
Yeah.
Montana.
So,
Which 7
I mean,
miles
she
from the
could
town where I'm
and
originally from in
Oh, yeah.
Montana.
finally, everything, they've even given us like.
I got one
I
in,
think on Christopher.
I think, this here.
It's like $95.
Yeah, that's what we
Yeah.
went through.
Yeah, yeah,
Fee reversal,
but it's,
so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they, cause I had them
Oh, I
reverse stuff
saw.
on me. I got a
It's going.
deposit
We got
that
our meetings.
You bet.
$14,000
I'm ready.
over, and I was like,
Right.
this ain't ours.
Ready. we're, we do have a quorum. We have 4 of us here. Jordan, Councilman Whitener got called away on work and was unable to attend this meeting. Have a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Already discussed, we had a quorum, we have a.
Should have grabbed that back from the. Same morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we're just filling in the numbers.
This is a special meeting workshop. We're gonna be discussing our budget. Would you like to start, chief, or would clerk like to start?
I think we just agree, we're just gonna go in order, just down by departments, and let department heads kind of talk about what they're asking for in this budget.
Right, that's what I
And
mean.
what they're asking their goals are for the departments and whatnot, and
Mhm.
any questions from the council for those items, just as a starting point, so we can get this framed up for the future actual
Yeah.
full budget workshop.
Yeah. And my question is, which one do you want to start first?
So.
Do you want to do it alphabetically, clerk?
So I just,
Or
Police expenditure.
I just went on the top page, so we'll just go please and just
Yeah.
flow through it.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
That way it's
You
easier to
bet.
stay in order.
Follow the.
So police department is pretty easy. I mean, a lot of our expenditures are kind of preordained, like our dispatch contract. Hopefully that is gonna stay the same this year. We're not gonna have any surprises. The MDT service contract, those are the terms of our MDTs for the licensing and everything that we have to pay every year. So those are just what it costs for those items. The 4,000 for the internet, that's for the internet that's required for our vehicles. So that's for 5 vehicles with internet for each MDT. And so those are kind of finite. The camera monitoring,
I apologize, chief, but NVT,
that's our mobile data terminals. That's what we use to
okay, sure.
log our information instead of using dispatch. That's meant to help for one, officer safety, more efficient on our patrols. It also was kind of the caveat to mitigating our dispatch fees going up. So we're not using so much radio time, that we're able to log everything digitally. And that's try and keep our dispatch fees down.
Sounds good.
And they can pull, the officer, correct me if I'm wrong, can pull up information if they have a really bad character in there that you might be able to.
Yeah,
Get a
well,
pre-warning.
it's basically, it's an interface. Why we have these service contracts is because it's essentially a mobile dispatch center. We can't enter information, but we can pull information. That's the only difference. So that's what those are. The highway safety grant, that is just an expenditure because that directly correlates to a grant. So it's an overtime expenditure that's paid for 100% by NHTSA and the state of Wyoming, YDOT for highway safety. So that's a budgetary item as far as personnel. So it's a finite number based on what our grant is. It corresponds with the revenue side. So those ones are preset. I guess in a nutshell, any questions or anything about the ones that are kind of preset?
I have a question about something new.
Yep.
So some of these towns have you're going too fast. I didn't know, do they own that or the YDOT have that? Is that an expense? Cause I thought, well, it might be worth a test if it wasn't a huge expense.
they're about $15,000.
I don't care that much.
And yeah, we would have to work with YDOT, 'cause it's going on their right of way. But yeah, we can,
We'd have to purchase our own for roughly.
they're not gonna do it for us.
Well, I didn't know if there
But-
was like a share program from the
Oh.
state or anything.
No, but it doesn't really fall under terrorism or anything like that, so it's not really gonna be like an SHAP grant from Homeland Security. But their grants are kind of shriveling up right now. So
Yeah.
it might be a out of pocket expenditure, but I can look at that and we can take a
I
look
was
at it.
just curious if that was something to bring up think about during the budgeting process was all, if that,
I mean,
I don't know if we should, if it was a big deal,
I can tell you Du Bois has them
it
and
don't work.
it don't work.
It does for me in Du Bois, but
I think for some people, but
it doesn't make a difference. I was just curious if that was something we needed to try to do something.
but it's something we can, if you want to make that a priority, I can look into it and get
No.
numbers.
Just a
Yeah.
thought, not
Even-
priority.
Du Bois has something where they gradually slow you down a lot more, especially coming in from the west. We go from 70 to 30.
But we asked for that
We did.
and YDOT said no. But their excuse is that you have a warning sign. And then 2 more 30-mile-an-hour signs. And we're catching people 3 blocks past
yeah.
that, still speeding. So, it's,
I didn't.
I get what you're saying.
I didn't know if it was worth looking into.
No, I think it's worth looking into. I mean, maybe. I don't know budgetary wise, if, maybe it's something additionally we look at.
I don't know.
Or,
Yeah.
or even this budget process, look at the costs, and maybe we can, that's,
If that's something you felt we should look into as a chief, or if it was a waste of.
I think it would be good
$15,000.
I think it would help, maybe if we had one, if we were able to put one on that side, since there's no slowdown. But on southbound into Shoshoni and westbound into Shoshoni, there's slowdown zones in both of those.
Yeah.
That one, I think maybe that would be a good place maybe to put one, maybe that warning, have it flashing or something like that.
But
so-
like the one that you see sometimes in Riverton or whatever, Riverton is that.
Yes,
Okay.
those ones are about $60,000, those mobile units.
And they're never right.
Oh, yeah, we don't. I'm not $60,000 interested.
But the ones that go on the signs are cheaper and they have a solar panel powered.
Yeah, they got that one north of Vermont.
So let me pull some numbers, and when we have our next actual budget workshop after that, that could maybe be something that
If you feel.
if
it's
we're
a
able to
need.
squeeze it in somewhere or whatever, the prices, we at least have the numbers.
If you feel it's worth looking into.
I think it's worth looking into, especially for that way. Coming into town from.
It's kind of
Riverton.
funny living there on the far 700 West First Street in town. Let's not make a mistake. To
Well,
watch people going in and out, all the different driving styles.
and we only have one officer usually, or sometimes 2, but there's 3 places in town. So if we got some assistance there that's slowing traffic down there, that helps us on that side of town. And people, like we get complaints like if we're on the east side of town, people on the west side of town say we're speeding over here. And we go to the west side, people on the east side, people say Peter. And so that would be something that I think could maybe be looked at to reduce some of that. So I'll take a look at that.
If you find it important.
So this year, my goal is to, in conversations with the clerk and developing our strategy from this perspective is trying to make reductions in spending to things that we've added money to over the years for specific purposes that may not be necessarily needed now. Where it makes sense, not cutting things that we need, but so much taking a look at the budget and trying to trim it down to make it a static budget. So we're not increasing it. Overall is what we're trying to do. And that's what all the department heads have been asked to do, is take a look at things that, so for example, police training, that was increased to $5,000 years ago from 2,000, or no, was it 1,500? Because we needed to get people trained. We still need to do ongoing training, but I think that 5,000, now that we have the staff that we have and people are trained, 5,000, that's $1,000 per officer per year. I don't think that's necessarily needed. And the caveat that I bring to that is that I don't think that we need 5,000. I think 3,000 is all I'm going to be requesting this year. The reason being is that a lot of the training is localized, so it's like $250 per person to go to trainings. Some of the stuff we do in-house, like firearms, we have a firearms instructor that's now trained because of this budget. We have that's allowed us to have a lot of people that are trained to be able to put on trainings. So we don't have to outsource it as much to go travel and things of that nature. So reducing that down to 3,000 this year is what I'll be requesting. Office supplies, that was also given to the police department mainly when we moved into this building, trying to get things set up in a new building. I think I'll only be requesting 1,500 is what I'll be requesting initially. And the things that would be used for, obviously, our case files, hard copies of, some of that stuff gets expensive. You get 10 folders, cost $80 for those types of legal folders. They're pretty pricey. So that there's ongoing office supply expense, pens, pencils, printer paper, things of that nature over the course of a year. But this year so far, I'm only at $1,200 expended. So I think 1,500 is an appropriate level to ask for.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. Where were we this year?
Vehicle repairs. I'm going to still request 3,000. Not so much for repairs, but kind of using that under the purview of repairs is for tires. That gives us the ability to replace all 4 tires on one vehicle, or two tires of two. If I need to replace 2 vehicles tires in 1 year, that gives me that ability without having to come and ask for more money. The big one though is going to be gas, oil, and service. So I finalized the contract with YDOT. We are now officially no longer using Fastlane for fuel. We're paying the state premium rate for fuel, which is about $1.10 less per gallon than we're currently paying. So the happy news on that is that I think that we just reduced our fuel budget by about 30%.
Yeah.
So I'm tentatively requesting 15,000 instead of 20,000. And that's one of the big cuts that I'm trying to save money. Things that we've done, trying to look at ways that we could better save money than what we're currently doing. And that's a big one.
So that's fuel, the oil service is still paying the same. So that's about a 25% cut overall.
Yeah.
30% cut on fuel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm cutting 25% of the overall
Right.
budget, but
yeah.
you still have to do oil changes.
Yes,
that's
correct.
part of that.
So
Good catch.
You're talking about down here at the
Fuel pumps.
Yeah.
So we can use statewide fuel pumps.
Yeah.
Statewide, like if you're,
If we're traveling to Casper, I can fuel up at the state pumps in Casper, or in Lander, I can fuel up in Lander, wherever.
nice,
No longer will we have to use commercial.
right. Fueling
Fuel stations.
Can you extend that to those of us on the council? That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Sure, why not?
Need to use my car.
Of course, we were joking.
When you are traveling in a town of
Town of
Shoshone
Shoshone
approved vehicle, I can absolutely extend that privilege to you.
Thank you very much.
Kind of Shoshone vehicle on.
I do what I can.
Unofficial business.
Yeah. Canine.
It'd have to be efficient.
The canine, I'm only gonna be requesting 500. The canine is for our 2 police canines, for just general care. For they're basically,
Vet checks.
vet checks, they need them, things, we're not buying food for them and things like that. It's just for things of that nature. And I think last year we spent $300. So I think 500 is appropriate. 1,000, we didn't know when we first said it how much it was going to be, so we said it 1,000. And if we have an emergency with one of our canines, obviously that's an emergency issue that we can talk about if God forbid something like that comes. But as far as normal care, I think 500 is appropriate. Firearm training, ammunition, that one I'll also be requesting 5,000, so $2,500 less on that one. Part of that was we had to buy new firearms, we had new people come on board, and we had add these things, so that's what was inflated. We have those now, and I could even probably go back down to like 4,000.
I remember when, I don't know if you're in the area when Riverton Police shot that cow 27 times.
Yeah.
Don't skimp on training, firearm training.
So
Made Paul Harvey over it.
yeah, we don't want to do that.
Don't skip on training firearm.
Tell you a story at a different time about a dog.
Yeah.
So I think 5,000 is more than enough. It gives a little bit, with ammunition prices and things variable. And we could probably go a little bit below that. But I think 5,000 is still a $2,500 cut. I think that's a pretty good reduction. And then
And you
miscellaneous.
had reasons why it was higher.
Yeah, so we average about $2,500 in ammunition a year, 2,500 give or take. We have a contract for our tasers, which is 2,000. That falls under that budgetary item. And that gives us $500 for, parts and repairs for existing optics or whatever for existing firearms. That's where the 5,000 came from on my side.
But
Could we do less with ammo? Yeah, we could do less. We had to, but I think that's why I'm requesting 5,000, because that's what I feel that will, for those purposes, it adds up to
the
right.
proper amount of training.
And then under miscellaneous, that was just kind of a catch-all for things that kind of, if we overspent on things, it gave us some leeway miscellaneous, or if something was outside of a budgetary item we could put it
Proceed
there.
as needed. Yeah.
And I think, 3,000 is, or even 2,500, is all I'm gonna request.
What do you spend this year?
We're right around 4,500, but I mean, that was getting the things that,
With the move.
yeah, we moved and all the other stuff that, the stuff on the vehicle just ran.
Yeah, it was
now in place
Yeah.
that we don't have. So
You don't foresee needing that this year.
correct. I mean, there's other things that obviously I can't, foresee.
Right.
You didn't give me ESP when you hired me, but, I think 2,500 is probably, or 3,000 is what I'll be requesting. I'll take a closer look, but I'm thinking 2,500. It would, having that budget, but 3,000 I would probably err just to give a little bit of leeway with unexpected costs that might come up, up with things. And then uniforms, we pretty much are set with uniforms. The biggest cost with that is our ballistic vest, which is about $1,100 a piece. We have one more we need to order for our female officer. Right now, she's using a male.
They're not built the same. Sure.
But I'm trying to get it ordered in this budget year. Where I have some, that's sort of miscellaneous stuff that I was talking about. I'm trying to get it ordered this budget year and get it paid for this budget year, so we won't need it. If I'm able to do that, I'll only be requesting 2,000. And that's, every year, boots,
What is the shelf life on those vests?
the what?
Shelf life.
5 years.
It's like my racing gear.
So all in all, and then capital outlay equipment, I'm not requesting anything this year for any new equipment. So all in all, the cuts to the police department, were about $28,000. Now that doesn't include personnel costs increasing from pay raises and things of that nature, but, as far as discretionary spending, that's a reduction of about $28,000. Roughly. I know it's kind of quick and dirty, but that's what I'll be proposing for spending this year and the cuts and why I'm making the cuts, because I think that's appropriate to make. I would love to keep my budget the same so I can buy more stuff, but I think I've gotten things that I need now and to be more prudent and in line with the goals of the budget, trying to keep it streamlined and flat. As far as overall spending goes, I think that from the police department, I think that's pretty rational, common sense reductions, while still being able to meet the goals and needs of the police department. That's my side.
What's the salaries represent?
The what?
The salaries?
These are still 3%. I didn't print off the 5.5.
Okay.
Done. That'll be, once we get these numbers put in, that we'll email that out, and that will be what you guys will have to work on. Taking an overall look at the whole budget once it's in there. On the admin side, there's been a couple revisions I'll just touch on. I know she's kind of all over the place today. So our revenues, our property tax. So we actually are going to receive about $6,000 over budget. We under budgeted last year. But when you factor in the cut that we got from the county treasurer's office, they're predicting we'll lose 5,000. So we had already proposed 37,000. That's been increased to 41,000 because we were going off our budget at the time, but our actuals are gonna be about 8,000, be about 48,000, about 5,000 over what we budgeted. So when you factor that in, the proposed was increased to 41,000, so that was revised upward in revenue. A revision downward in revenue was sales tax, that was revised $3,000 downward. The net difference is about $1,000 increased in revenue projection so far at this point. I think that's the only thing we changed, right?
Yeah,
So, and we're gonna continue to adjust these and we'll let you know as we adjust anything that come up, but that's the adjustments that were made so far that we're aware of leading up to that. For this biennium, everything else is gonna be static. The Craig report in July. January predicted a decrease in severance tax and mineral royalties of about 20% affecting the next budget. But that's offset. They're predicting an increase in oil. And so what that final number is actually going to look like, we won't know until this next budget from the state of Wyoming. But so for this year it's flat, but it's going to change next
year.
All right. Same thing with the pre-filled in discretionary spendings. Those are things that are just, those are the cost for those support things, unless council wants to nix certain supports and certain softwares that we utilize, that's what the costs are going to be. So now it's, I guess the clerk can talk about her budget. You got 20 minutes.
we'll do it really fast. Cause right now, it's just basically going off of what is in the budget line. The first column. And then of course, the ones that are reset won't change.
You're not going to decrease anything?
Where are you at on the,
The
what,
only part that I'm really kind of going back and forth on is office supplies. I have to really look, because I need to get 2 chairs for Joel's office. Possibly. And I'm not quite sure, Christopher, you might know better because you dealt with the office shop longer. The printer that they brought out for me is horrible.
You bought it.
We bought it,
You can trade it in and upgrade, and they'll give you credit, and they'll pay the difference.
they'll give us credit. Because it's horrible.
we might be able to get
It's
a good one at Best Buy.
But even our IT guy has no clue. And it constantly, it wastes paper. Like
Yeah,
I'll
it's-
come in the morning and I leave at night, nothing on the printer. Come in the morning, there's like 12 print pieces of paper that's printed junk on.
It's haunted.
I know,
Yeah.
it's a ghost. But he's,
Well,
yeah, it's some off brand.
God, I wish I had your budget. Gee.
So that's the only thing I'm toying with, really.
What about advertising? I know we talked about that. But
The advertisement, yeah, that we probably all take down.
Yeah,
5,000.
we're at what, 1,800 this year?
Yeah,
And last year we were at like 2,100.
yeah,
Then we got budget for 5,000.
yeah, because the only thing that we're really doing for advertisement is public notices. And that's $75, like for the liquor license,
Land
So,
sales, all that stuff that we've done.
small charges, yeah. So that'll probably be taken down. I really don't want to change up transportation and conventions much. Because everybody's WAM costs go under that instead of under council, mayor and council. So depending on you know, who all goes. And that's one that can kind of fluctuate. If we don't have. a
I
lot
think
of
the
people
10,000 was sent for everybody on council and the clerk going to both WAM conferences,
Spring and winter,
spring and winter. Would be about 10,000. is
Yeah.
What I think it was configured on
yeah,
before your time.
oh, that's why it was.
That's why it was 10,000.
Yeah, so that possibly could be brought down too.
Where's that at?
It's on, it's
Sure.
kind of like right in the, under general administrative expenditures. And it's about halfway
Oh,
down,
transportation conventions?
transportation conventions. Mhm.
How much had we spent this year on that?
I don't have the actuals with me, I can't access.
I think it was
Oh.
6,000. Last
Yeah,
when we were looking at this,
yeah, it was lower than what yours was. For the 10.
What all utilities are, in it just says utilities. Is that like power and all?
Yeah, it's
power, gas,
for, yeah, for everybody.
Okay.
For
kind of all.
Rocky Mountain, for Black Hills.
Seems like power's going back up. So I didn't know if we needed to increase that in anticipation.
I'm waiting for the power bill right now,
Okay.
and I thought it was gonna come today, but it didn't. They don't get it out quickly. Neither one of them.
They do it when they want.
It's true. And
You
then
better
want
send in a
payment
check
within, like, 10
yesterday.
days.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah, on that one I wanna look at too.
Wow, I cut a lot more than you did. Just saying.
Turn the power off to the police department for 2 days if he sasses you again, since you pay the power bill.
So that'll change the lock codes.
Ah, geez.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
No, I mean, not all departments are the same, so.
Joel, I know, previously, like on attorney, the 26,400.
The attorney should be 30,000, 2,500 a month is our contract.
It comes out of two different GLs.
Oh.
Yeah.
Some of it comes out of court and then most of it comes
okay.
out of admin. That's why it's only 26,400 in this
Okay.
one.
Were we gonna change that up at all?
Well, that's probably something we should talk about.
Okay.
That's probably something we should talk about.
We need to.
I had a conversation with the past mayor of Riverton. I don't know. And he said when he took over mayor of Riverton, he said that was sort of the setup where they had the attorney present at all meetings. But he said basically that wasn't needed. And I know the school district is also, don't mean just because they did it was right, also they used to do the same thing. I don't know if we need the attorney that much. I know one of the things.
It's been handy a few times for sure, but
Yeah.
a lot of the time it's doesn't really add anything to.
You know, so I that was probably one of the things that we probably should look at, if, and discuss if that's exactly what the governing body still wants to do. Talking, they have very little challenges at court. They have some, what I was told. And, I thought could be something that probably be a bad idea to look at. See how we want to structure, if we want to change, if we don't want to change. I mean, that's probably something that worth kicking around. that would be something to look at.
I'm all for having an attorney available as needed, but not extra or not.
You know, one of the reasons we put the attorney on, because we ended up hiring a consultant to do a lot of the zoning stuff. We thought initially that was gonna be one thing the attorney would do. Was one of the reasons we put on an attorney full-time. That would be, Marshall is all, handy for many things, but that'll be,
I guess it kind of, if a guy had a crystal ball, is yours in the repair shop then? Still, or
Was that?
your crystal ball for telling the future?
yeah,
Oh, it's broken.
Cause
It completely shattered.
if you got some bored retirees that are just trying to make trouble, then absolutely that's necessary.
mhm.
But if there's a little bit more smooth sailing where we can just reach out, get a little more guidance here and there, rather than have to deal with a constant. I talked to this attorney and that attorney and this attorney and that attorney, you guys all suck.
Sure.
If a guy had a guess on what's going on there.
Well, it's also hard sometimes to find an attorney that has municipal experience. And you gotta be careful, you're not paying for someone's education. So there's things to look at, but would it be cheaper to go on a as needed basis with not such of a retained, just something that would just have to look at for retainer fee. So
I don't know.
that's something that's probably worth looking at. That was something that sort of stood out on the budget a little bit. That we used to.
Used to have a lot less of an attorney present, but the presence, a lot less of an attorney presence.
Yes, we did.
We also had a lot less spoons stirring the spot.
Mhm,
And we also had a lot fewer projects we were trying to do too.
mhm. Marshall got an awful good approach.
Yeah.
So, but
If I needed an attorney, I'd hire him.
mhm.
He is
But-
my attorney too. I did hire him.
But I mean, any event, but that's definitely
Because of the
worth
work he
looking
did
at.
for the town.
I have to pull back, but I think it used to be about 5,000 a year.
I think we can take cuts other places besides the attorney.
Well, I think there's more to it than.
What is
Behind
that?
that. Cause that's a big chunk,
Yeah,
$26,000.
but there's other big chunks that's being spent too. There's other big chunks that's being spent too that can be cut down.
Right, it's just. What are we getting for $26,000?
I don't really know. I haven't, does it do your courts or?
Because from what Kathy has told me. For the way that it's laid out, I've never seen it, a copy of it. But it consists of, supposed to be consist of every meeting. And every Tuesday for court. But that doesn't happen, and then now, I guess there's a change where. He has other.
Responsibilities.
Yeah, where he's telling the court, our court, that he can't be here on certain Tuesdays. So, that's what I'm saying. Like I said, I haven't seen the agreement. But that's huge. If our court can't count on him being here, And that's part of,
But where else are you gonna
Yeah,
find
we-
an attorney to do that for that price? Good
uh,
luck.
but how much are we using now?
The
What
question
I'm
is-
saying is, if you say we have to get a different attorney to be here on Tuesdays, we're gonna be putting out a lot more than that.
Yeah, I'm just saying, 26,000. What? How much time is being put into that 26,000?
Well, he may not be needed here that much.
What are you talking about keeping the same attorney, but just going on a per work basis, hourly basis, like Perry did?
That may be that might be something like that. Then you pay for what you need.
As long as he agrees to it, then
Right,
it'd still be the same attorney.
right.
Yeah,
Pay for what you need.
isn't he also doing Thermopolis?
Yeah,
Attorney.
he's got a private business, so he has other clients.
Yeah,
Yeah, we wouldn't hire an attorney for $30,000 a year. Yeah,
I guess the only risk though is you go off a contract and you go hourly.
One
Attorneys need to add
case,
up pretty dang quick. You think 26 is cheap, you'll be thinking 26,000 is cheap if things go the wrong way.
one
well,
case,
I just,
I'm just saying, I'm just putting that
guess-
out there.
I guess my thing is that when you're writing out the check, but you never see the person,
But attorneys do a lot of their work
Yeah,
behind the scenes.
okay, that's.
Every
what I'm
phone
asking,
call,
what-
every phone call is a billable hour. Every email is a billable hour. Everything is billable when you get off a contract with an attorney that you never see them.
$250 an hour.
Right,
I
I'm
paid
just saying-
$4,000, well,
But on the bill,
$8,000 for one girl.
I'm not
that's going
seeing
forward.
any activity. I've seen attorney bills before. I'm not seeing activity, you know,
And-
call.
Well, maybe that's something
With
that
PD,
maybe Joel or the mayor, you know, to talk about reducing the salary under contract and reducing the responsibilities of what we're actually using them for. Maybe it's still a contract, but at a lesser rate for lesser service, whatever that looks like. If you're saying that a lot of it's not being utilized for that cost, he's
right,
doing less. That's maybe something.
we'd have to have a discussion with Marshall and see what he,
Would
Thanks.
accept and
yeah, what does he think of that? And, but if, you know, and I have no idea. Cause we're not. We got a contract and if he does anything that's outside our normal stuff, then he does bill us for that.
Well, what about having him, it sounds like we just really don't know what he's doing.
Yeah, and he's not here.
And so why don't we just get, does he bill us on a monthly basis?
Mhm.
Maybe he just gives us an itemized bill. You know, and it would be average out over a period of months. I mean, I understand that some months would be busy, some months wouldn't be, but gives us an itemized bill, we know what he's doing.
yeah.
But
And
we're
right now
only
it's-
paying him 2,500 a month now.
Correct.
You are not gonna find one cheaper.
But
And it is
if you're
billable,
not
right? That'd
doing
be 10
anything,
hours.
right.
That's pretty good paycheck.
I just know, cause I've just dealt with some lawyers lately and it's 8,000 just to retain him.
You know, our last attorney, I think, was charging us just $100. You know, he gave us. a
Yeah, but
big
he
break.
was different, Harry.
Yeah, he gave us a good break. And then he only charged us for about half the hours he worked.
I think, you know, that I guess the approach for that would be to, as you said, sit down and talk with them and say, what are you actually doing? You know, what do we want you to do under a certain contract at a lower rate? What would that look like? As long as that meets our goals of what we need, fine, but then we have to take the risk of anything extra above that. You know, that it's currently with this I don't know. I'm just saying.
But if we have anything that's out of scope, we pay him extra anyway.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Because when
But
we
if it
have,
reduces
Right.
scope at a lower rate, then
More things would be outside. that.
that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
well, on average, how many days does he really need to be in court? I mean, if he doesn't need to be involved in court? I mean, how many does it?
So he does a lot of everyone that calls, they negotiate with him behind the scenes on traffic stuff. So he doesn't actually come to court. They make plea deals.
Okay,
He works with and talks to the other attorneys. Gets discovery, sends a discovery out. So how many hours he spends doing that? I don't know the answer to that. I'm just saying, I know he does those tasks.
okay.
I don't know,
See, and that's something that should be on the bill.
but that's not what the contract says. Maybe it should be, maybe it shouldn't be, but the contract says he's a straight contract. He doesn't have to itemize.
Oh, they.
Yeah,
he
that's
does
not a contract.
itemize.
It's just a flat rate bill. That's why it just comes with no itemization of what he's actually done for that, because it's a
It-
like contract.
Same with Skip.
Kind of like salary, whether he shows up to work or not, he gets paid. The contract says he gets paid.
Yeah, I know.
And
But I'm saying you don't see what he does outside of it. I can't say what he does outside of it because I'm not in his office, but I do know that on the police side, the court side, there's things that take place from his office that none of us see. So we all assume he's not doing anything,
Right,
but I'm telling you, he is.
yeah.
just like the mayor. Everybody thinks I'm back there asleep.
But how many,
We know you are.
but how many hours is he actually doing that? I don't know. You know, maybe there's a rubric
What?
there where it needs to be changed, you
I
know.
wonder if we get a better idea is more hours being spent on court. And we should not necessarily adjust the contract, adjust how it's being paid. Right,
I mean, it also
Yeah,
would
So-
still overall be if the total
right, but if it's
general fund, but yeah.
maybe, and I think obviously a conversation needs to take place, but if 60% of his work is coming out of the court, for court things, negotiating things, and
Then
that
this should
maybe the
reflect
court
that.
should be paying 60% of that bill. is what-
right.
Or I think maybe we need to have a conversation on that, and maybe readjust,
Yeah,
see how that goes.
Just,
Oh, we're out of time.
sounds good.
Oh, we
Uh,
have 4 more minutes, dang it.
and then the other thing, on office software or office support software. In the first column, the budget column is 4,000 and proposed was 5,500. That's because we had to add, a couple modules to Cassell. Timekeeping and HR. And the reason behind that, the HR. One is because we have to electronically file now. For the IRS. And so we had to add that module to enable us to do that.
Real quickly, Kim, before we call it a meeting, do we have anything in there? We're gonna be doing something different with our website.
No,
Okay, that's something prioritized. Do we really need to do? We'll discuss that next meeting. I would like to schedule the next meeting in a few weeks. I don't know if a weekend works better for everybody.
no,
No. Weekend's not usually very easy.
It's, when are we gonna have time? Well, then during the weekday, not before one of these meetings. It's where we got at least a minimum of 2 hours where we can spend on a meeting at a minimum. So we can do less meetings, try to get more done, so we're not running up against a time clock like we are here. So I'm trying to search for a day that will work for everybody.
Well, in the
Think
past,
about an email. We don't have to make a decision
I
now.
won't email you, I'll text you.
Next week, whatever you
I'll
do.
tell you right now, so in the past, we've done workshops on the off weeks.